Hey guys, this is Fiverr. Welcome to the video guide for my Ball Lightning Cold Conversion Occultist. This is a build that I started in the middle of Harvest League and I've had incredibly fun with it, so I decided that I would share it. I have managed to do everything, like all the content that I've wanted to do with it. So Awakener, Uber Elder, Shaper, all of that stuff. The single target is all right. It's nothing special, but it's all right. The clear speed is very good. And well, I was going to say quite right. The survival is fine. I don't know. I don't feel squishy. So it's a little bit of a little bit of everything. The clear speed is very good, but the others it's all right. But it's fun to play, so you should play it anyway. Let's move on. So I'm gonna go through the items. We're gonna go through the skills we're using. We're gonna go to the passives, and we're gonna go through the pantheons. There is probably stuff that I'm going to miss. I'm like probably going to miss something, and you'll have to you'll have to ask me on the forums or on my Twitch channel or wherever. I have a Discord server that you can join as well. I'm gonna start with our skills, what skills we are using. So our main skill is Ball Lightning. Ball Lightning shoots a projectile that while it's traveling, it's shooting out small lightning thingies in an area. I think that is basically the explanation of ball. Yeah, that's Ball Lightning. It does lightning damage, but we convert the damage to cold instead. We'll get to that later. That is also why we're using Hypothermia, because Hypothermia gives us more damage against shield and frozen enemies. So Hypothermia is good. Power Charge on critical, because we are using power charges and we're getting a lot of them. We have like 9 power charges or something. So Power Charge on critical is good for us. We're using added lightning damage. I have Awakened here, but added lightning damage. And Control Destruction and Spell Echo. Our aura setup is going to be Herald of Ice, Discipline, Wrath, and Enlighten. I also have a level 1 Clarity. Like, it helps a little bit with mana, but I'm not sure if it is necessary or not. We also have a Val Haste as a burst skill. We're not using the original, only the Val Haste. I'm also using an Enduring Cry. The Enduring Cry is for regen. So since we have Zealot's Oath in the passive tree, life regen applies to our energy shield instead. So this one can be used as a heal. We also use, our movement setup is a dash, a phase run, a second wind, and an arcane surge. I'm not sure if you hear my cat here. She's whatever. And arcane surge. So with dash and phase run, those are our movement skills. We have phase run on our left mouse button, and it will activate every time. Like when I'm running and it runs out of cooldown, then it will keep activating, which is really nice because some extra move speed is always nice. And then we're also using dash. We have second wind linked to these to lower the cooldown and give an extra charge on the dash. We also have arcane surge linked to these. So every time we activate phase run or every time we use dash, we also get arcane surge, and arcane surge will give us damage, which is great. We have Righteous Fire, but only the Val version of Righteous Fire. Val Righteous Fire steals half your energy shield, but it gives you a shit ton of damage for a short period of time. It is a great burst skill. I also have Immortal Call linked to a cast when damage taken. I usually have this in basically all my builds. I have some sort of cast when damage taken set up. Having cast when damage taken will trigger whenever you take a certain amount of damage, and it will cast all the spells that are linked to it. In this case, Immortal Call. Immortal Call will reduce our damage taken, so it's a very, very good line of defense. I also have a Curse on Hit setup with Wave of Conviction, Curse on Hit, Elemental Weakness, and Assassin's Mark. So Wave of Conviction, we are using that one to apply these curses, but also to debuff enemies. We'll give them cold exposure when we hit them. You'll see at the bottom it says exposure applies -25 to elemental resistances, matching the highest damage taken. Sorry. The highest damage taken for us is cold damage. So we're applying cold damage or cold exposure. So the enemy takes a lot of extra damage. That is our curse setup. The curse setup is meant for, well, like 2 reasons, I guess. We are cursing our enemies so they take more damage from elemental weakness and assassin's mark. We also debuff them with wave of conviction, but we also use this because of our ascendancy called malediction. No, wait, profane bloom. Well, malediction as well, but profane bloom. And what this one does is, well, first we can target, like we can curse hex-proof enemies, which is always nice. It's not like super big, but it's always nice. And it also says cursed enemies you or minions kill have 25% chance to explode, dealing a quarter of their maximum life as chaos damage. So we're applying 2 curses and like stuff explodes. If we're applying curses to stuff and then kill them, then they explode. I don't know what better way to put it. We're done with the skills. Let's head on to the items. So I'm using a Void Battery as my weapon. Void Battery is great for this build, again, because we're stacking power charges and we get a lot of damage from it. It might be possible to get a better rare wand, but that is going to be very expensive in that case. Our shield will be a Light of Lunaris. We are also getting block on this build, and Light of Lunaris will give us damage, but it will also give us block, and it will also give us energy shield. You can get a shield with more energy shield than this one, but this one is what I would aim to go for. We are using a Incandescent Heart. Since we are playing a build using Chaos Inoculation, Incandescent Heart is incredibly strong. What it does is it mitigates a lot of elemental damage. It says 25% of elemental damage taken is taken as chaos damage. And since we are immune to chaos damage, then this basically just like throws 25% of the elemental damage away. So that's fine. It's really, really strong for defense. It also gives us damage. Our belt is going to be a belt with energy shield and resistances, basically. That's it. A Redeemer base, if you get a Redeemer base, then you can craft cold damage on it as well. Our gloves is like basically the same on all our rares, really. There's going to be a lot of energy shield and resistances. On the gloves, you can get a, well, yeah, basically energy shield and resistances. On the boots, you also would like to have Tailwind if you can get it. So try to have as much move speed as possible and Tailwind. There's also an enchant that you can get on the boots that is really, really strong, which gives you 10% elemental penetration if you haven't killed recently. And against bosses, this is very strong. 10% elemental penetration is really, really much. Like that is, it usually translates to a damage boost of like 7 to 9%, somewhere in between there. Our helmet is basically going to be just energy shield and resistances. Again, with a Redeemer helmet here, you can get some damage from it. You can get a modifier that gives nearby enemies -9% to cold resistance. So if you get a Redeemer helmet, then you can get that one. The best enchant is the increased ball lightning area of effect. As I explained earlier, while the ball lightning travels, it shoots out everywhere. So if the area is bigger for it to then it will hit the same target more times. So ball lightning area of effect is the best one. You can probably go for damage as well, but this one is the best one. Something that I didn't mention on my skills, by the way, I might as well take this right away now that I'm remembering. We use slower projectiles instead of hypothermia, only versus bigger bosses like Awakener, Shaper, etc. Hypothermia, on the same note as with the ball lightning area of effect, hypothermia makes the ball lightning travel slower, which means that the enemy is within the area of effect longer and takes a bunch of extra damage. When you're mapping, slower projectiles doesn't really feel very good because the clear speed gets worse, but slower projectiles versus bosses and hypothermia when you're clearing. Our rings, well, actually, let's go amulet first. Our amulet is also basically the same. Energy shield, resistances. You can get a lot of damage on the amulet. I have one with increased damage per power charge. That one is all right. There are a lot of modifiers. There is cold damage or lightning damage, has extra chaos, and there is, well, there's a lot of them. There's +1 to lightning skills, skill gems, etc. The one that I have is actually pretty bad. On the amulet, you want to anoint Command of Steel. Command of Steel will give us damage depending on how much block we have, basically. And we're getting a little bit of block from it as well. Then we have our main source of, well, this is the only required item. This is the only required item in the build, which is Call of the Brotherhood. Call of the Brotherhood converts 40% of lightning damage to cold damage, but if you add catalysts to it, you add the catalyst that adds elemental damage. I think it is called prismatic? Whatever, it doesn't matter. The catalyst that adds elemental damage, that will boost the damage converted to 48%. So with 2 of these, we are converting 96% of our lightning damage to cold damage. This means that you should still get lightning damage modifiers if you can, because all the lightning damage is, sorry about that, all the lightning damage is converted to cold damage anyway. Cold damage modifiers are also great though, of course. So 2 of those. Our flasks are going to be a Quicksilver flask. I prefer having a Quicksilver flask. You don't need to have this one. You can put in a Sulfur flask or like a Bottled Faith. Bottled Faith is like ridiculously expensive though, so that is something that when you have everything else, then you can get a Bottled Faith basically. A Diamond flask with freeze immunity. Diamond flask is a lot of damage and you should have one. Dying Sun gives us extra projectiles and it increases the AoE of well, our balls. So gives a lot of damage and it gives us extra projectiles. Until you can get this one, like this one isn't, you don't have to have this one. It's really, really nice to have it, but early on this one might be expensive. So this is also something that you should try to get it pretty early, but yeah. A Silver flask, preferably a Cinder Swallow, with critical strike chance on it. You can get a normal silver flask and craft this modifier on it but you have to have unveiled a Cinder Swallow first to do that, which means that you would have one of these anyway. Or you can ask someone else to craft it on a silver flask for you. And that Seer's Promise is also a great flask for damage, and it also gives you some leech. Our jewels, let's start with an energy from within. So when you place an energy from within in the passive tree, all the life nodes that are within the area will be converted to energy shield. So if we place an energy from within here, you'll see that these give, that one gives 3%, 3%, 3%, and 6% life, as well as a bunch of energy shield. So when we place an energy from within here, all of these will give energy shield instead. We are also using cluster jewels. I don't have the all of the cluster jewels that I should be having. I have still done everything, but I don't have everything that I am supposed to have in the build. So that's a good sign, I guess. The cluster jewels we will be looking for, though, is a large one with increased cold damage, preferably as few passives as possible. If you have 8 passives, if you have more than 8 passives, you need to spend an unnecessary amount of skill points, passive points, which is bad. So 8 passives is ideal. On this one, we want Doriana's Lessons and Blanketed Snow. If you can get Snowstorm as well, that is nice, but it's not, like, focus on these 2 to begin with. We're also going to need a medium jewel, which gives us increased effect of non-damaging ailments. On this one, we are going to get something called Cold Conduction. This modifier is incredibly strong, and this is important. You need to get this one early. Try to get this one early. What it does, like all our enemies, well, you see what it says on the tooltip there. Enemies shielded by your hits are shocked, and enemies shocked by your hits are shielded. So what that means, whenever we are shilling enemies, or when we are hitting shilled enemies and shilling them with our hits, whatever, they are also shocked for 15%. And 15% is a lot of damage. You'll see the ball lightning here yeah, you'll see the DPS there. And like, that's a lot of damage, you can see. So cold conduction is important. Try to get that one early. Then we also get 2 small jewels with energy shield on them. Energy from Naught is the one that I plan on having, the one that gives you the most, well, the most energy shield, I guess. But there are a couple of other good nodes that you can take temporarily until you get an energy from Naught, because that is the one that is hardest to roll as well. Preferably, if you can, I haven't added any of that, but preferably if you can, you want to add, you can have resistances on these small ones and other stuff. We are using a large thread of hope. This one can only be dropped by awakeners, so this one is probably, well, it drops in price really fast though, but to get this one as early as you can. Until you get it, don't worry about it, use something else meanwhile. What it does is it allows us to place the passive points within this area without using any passive points to travel to them. So we're going to get Heart of Ice, we're going to get Utmost Intellect, Snowforged, Arcane Focus, Lightning Walker, and Light Eater. I would have loved if we could get Arcane Guarding without passing this way, but we don't. Unfortunately, this one is without or outside the area, so we have to travel for that one. We are also using a timeless jewel called Militant Faith. The reason we are using this one is because it gives us, if you have the one that says Dominus on it, High Templar Dominus, if you place that one over a big keystone, like this one, you say this one says minions instability right now. If we place this one over a big keystone and take it, we get Inner Conviction instead, which gives us more damage from power charges. And since we're stacking power charges, then damage per power charge is strong. And then the last jewel that we're using is another Thread of Hope, but this one with a very large ring. This one is important because it allows us to take glancing blows without spending a bunch of points to travel down here. This is effectively what gives us most of our block chance, but it also makes blocks. We take 50% of the damage when we block. This is a great line of defense though anyway. And this one allows us to take that one. We can also grab Sanctity and Retribution here. They are useful, both like if you need strength, getting both of these are good for other reasons as well, but these are good when you are like lacking strength and so on. I think we're done with the items. Let's head on to the passive tree then, I guess. I'm gonna do the passive tree in Path of Building because I don't have all the passives in my own skill tree because I'm not level 100. So, okay. To begin with, when you are leveling, you will not be playing Chaos Inoculations. You will have life still, and you need to get life early on. It might be, you might be forced to take some of these, like Heart and Soul might be useful. You should get Melding, and before you swap to Chaos Inoculation, you shouldn't remove this, like you shouldn't add this jewel. You should let this wheel be with life. You should grab Written in Blood. Some of these are the ones that you don't really need to change as well. You need to get some life on your gear while you're leveling because you're not going to be able to swap to Chaos Inoculation until you have like 4,000. I recommend like around 4,000 energy shield, 3.5, 4,000, then maybe you can swap. Ideally, you want more than that though. Early on, then life and energy shield. Get rid of the life when you can, of course, but life and energy shield. You also need to take the influence one here, aura effect, reduce mana reservation and influence, and you also need to take this one, sovereignty, and you need to go the bottom path here. This is to allow us to use all of our auras without having too little unreserved mana, which is important because our mana is going to be pretty low. We also have a few keystones that we want. We want Zealot's Oath. Don't get this one until you swap to Chaos Inoculation. When you swap to Chaos Inoculation, you should get Zealot's Oath. We also have Ghost Reaver, which is, well, yeah, you see what it says. We leech energy shield instead of life, which is really useful when you are using something like a Atzir's Promise that gives us life leech. This one will instead give us energy leech. So, yeah. Again, don't swap until you have Chaos Inoculation with this one. Aside from that, so we've gone through energy shield, we've gone for life, and we've gone through the auras and all of those. So what's left is basically the damage nodes. Well, first I would say that the cluster jewels, specifically the one with cold conduction, try to get that one as early as you can, because that one is a lot of damage. Aside from that, I tend to get crit multiplier as like pretty early. So we have Throat Seeker here that gives crit multiplier. We have another crit multiplier node here. This is called Arcane Potency. We have one here called Doomcast. These three modifiers are a lot of damage, and I recommend trying to get those like fairly early. A lot of the nodes within this like Thread of Hope is also very strong, so some of these might be really important to get when you can. I mean, after this, once you have the cluster jewels, or like when you have the energy shield and all of that and the aura, then basically just go for damage. You need to get Arcane Guarding before that. You need to get Arcane Guarding. This one gives a spell block, and that is important because we're also going to get Arcane Swiftness. Sorry, these are two that I forgot about. Getting these two are also like really important to get early. These will both give us block chance, and that is one of our big sources of damage mitigation, which is important. After that, it is basically just damage. Okay, so I noticed when I was recording this that I forgot about our Ascendancy, which is one of the main things to go through. So we're using Void Beacon. It gives nearby enemies less cold resistance, and well, no, they can't regen life, which is also really nice. But they take more cold damage. We use Profane Bloom, which we've already talked about. We stuff Explode. We also use Malediction. This one allows us to apply an extra curse. It increases the effect of curses. And well, you can see when you kill an enemy, for each curse on that enemy, gain 8% of non-chaos damage as extra chaos damage for 4 seconds. And enemies you curse have Malediction. And you'll see at the bottom what Malediction does. Enemies with Malediction deal 10% reduced damage and take 10% increased damage. We also use Forbidden Power, which gives us a power charge. It gives us damage and area of effect from the power charges. As for our Pantheons, I usually play with Soul of Solaris. It is good versus single targets. It is good when you're fighting like bosses that have AoE because you have a chance to avoid them. You take less damage from critical strikes if you've taken one, etc, etc. It is really, really good defensively. Soul of Lunaris is alright as well, but I prefer Solaris in this case. I also use Soul of Gruthkul a lot. This one is like, well, yeah, this one is really good. It's basically 8% damage reduction against, like, if you've been hit by something, then that thing gets 8% slower attack speed, which is 8% reduced damage, sort of. Which isn't very useful against stuff that casts spells. But when clearing maps, this one is really useful. One that I like a lot is Garukan as well. And the main reason why I like it is basically the move speed, because it's always nice to run faster. I usually use Gruthkul most of the time though. Soul of Abrath is really good when you're playing stuff like Blight maps, because the fire thingies in the Blight maps, they leave a burning ground that does a lot of damage. Soul of Abrath is good to yeah, you don't take any damage if you have that. I think I've gone through all the important stuff. There's probably stuff that I have missed, and well, yeah, there's probably stuff that I have missed, or maybe I've been wrong on something. I don't know. We'll find out at some point. If you need help with anything, if you just want to hang out or whatever, you can stop by my Twitch stream. I'll put a link in the description. I will make a forum thread, and I also have a Discord server. So if you need help with anything, then hop on to either the forums or the Discord server. There will be people who can help you on both of those, and I will be there to help you as well, of course. YouTube is not a good place to ask for help because it is not very easy to write long messages in the YouTube comments. So I prefer if you leave it on the forums or on the Discord server or on the stream. The stream is the easiest for me, at least. Right, I think that's all I have to say. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have fun if you play this. And goodbye.